Hi. It is a rainy day here in central Washington. Uh, if you've been to my Facebook page, you may have seen the picture of me with the background of this beautiful, beautiful sky in the background. Today is an interesting day because I am coming up against some of my own paradigms. And some of the things I'm facing are the fact that um, there's very little I can write out that isn't going to cross over very sensitive things that I have to deal with. Um, and so I'm going to face that right up front that I may do really well for a while and then find that I've got things that slow me down. And you and I are basically co-creating together. So you're here, and I applaud you for that. Um, we are. I'm going to be looking over here at my notes, so that seems strange. That's what's going on there. Today is what I refer to as 01, day one. Yesterday was a zero, a placeholder. Um, And what we're going to do today is not only we're going to be exploring the heart's boundaries. These are many of us have what we think are boundaries, or we never really we aren't taught in school how to set up a boundary. Most parents don't have this kind of foreknowledge, and yet it might be something that we would all be good to teach our children would be how to set boundaries and teaching them how to set boundaries. As a matter of fact, someone asked me yesterday, was I going to be doing some children's courses? And after having a night to sleep on it, I've realized not only do I have a several 40-day journals that have now been placed upon my heart, but potentially something that relates to children so that they can start to learn how to set boundaries in appropriate ways where their parents have control over it. So, we're going to start today with our art process. So you want to take your doodle sheet. This is my doodle sheet. I don't know that you can actually see that very well. But what I've done is I've placed numbers next to the ones that I started to develop into whatever my child saw. And I gave myself time to do that. So on my sheet, I have what sort of looks like someone swimming, and I have a bird, and I have a modern circular piece, and then I have what looks sort of to me like a seal with a fish in its mouth. Nothing extraordinary, nothing out of the question, just something to allow the human spirit to be more at ease in its child position. Uh, the goal here is to allow freedom of the spirit, and so we're going to continue to work on this. Now, I would highly suggest to you that if you're artistic or you get the inspiration because something turned out nice, if you've got a printer, go take your little day's worth of doodles and pick out the ones that you see some expression in that you might like to work on. Uh, Keep them, because at some point we will be going back and seeing what we can do with all the doodles that we allowed our inner child to bring out, and we can play with them. So what I want you to do is, after you've numbered these, I want you to go into your journal, and I want you to look at each one, and whatever you come up with as your first response to that particular doodle, I want you to write it down next to the number it is. This may sound trivial, but it won't in another 10 to 15 days. So now, this is a process where you're really going to be learning about what it's like to just sort of open your mind. We have other non-evasive art projects that we are going to be doing, but this one is going to last for the first potentially 10 days. On day 11, we start to have a shift in our focus. So right now, that is what I'm going to ask you to do. It's not super artistically overwhelming for those of you who are not really wanting to participate with that. Maybe you don't feel comfortable. So that's why it's so important to go back to your inner child. As an inner child, as a child, you just took it at its face value. Someone said, make a squiggle, you did it. Now is the time to suspend judgment and take whatever comes to your mind when you look at the squiggles and the doodles that you did yesterday, and just sort of jot down what your mind came to when you saw these completed and you look down at them. And that is where we want to go, because your subconscious mind is the closest to being the best friend to the heart's inner child. So let us start there and move forward. Now, your journal page should also put anything you're feeling about this activity with me in it, so that at some point in the future, we can deal with anything that comes up that may be uncomfortable. So then what we want to do right now is if you want, or you find or are inspired to do something, then please, by all means, now is a good time to stop the video and go in and to actually embellish, or, as I said, go get a copy made and enlarge it. And these are things I definitely would love to see everyone do, because where I'm not going to be doing really in-depth things here, I am encouraging you to do these things on your own, because this is just sort of a learning process for you and me. Okay, so we are going to set this part of our experience down. We've spent roughly 8 minutes on this part of our project. You'll want to get a fresh sheet and continue this process today as we're going through it. Just whenever you feel the urge to doodle, do it. Just allow a free flow of the doodles, if you will. But that right there is something that is needing to be an ongoing recognition of your child within this process. So now, before we actually start the breath work, I want you to consider taking some time and either going to Facebook or going directly to YouTube and going in and getting a chance, an opportunity, if you're willing, to watch the Serious Joy TV which was published today, yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, just about the same time I was doing the first video, October the 23rd of 2021, and listen to as much of it as time allows, because I think that you'll start to get an idea of how integrated this can become. It is, once again, something I'm going to ask everyone who's participating with this to do. Go and take advantage of his 30-day trial for $3.99. And I'm asking that because there is no way I can recreate his perfection. He has done a phenomenal job of creating a breath exercise and a daily routine that I can in no way possibly reproduce. What I can do is start to augment that procedure by artwork. And so that is basically what I'll be doing. The next version of what you're looking at here will be when I actually finish this 40 days, go back and do some editing and make sure that I haven't plagiarized or done something that is ethically going to create a challenge for me or for anyone else. So I do have that on my plate. I am aware of that and doing what I can to not cross those boundaries. This week's episode of Serious Joy TV is talking about something that yesterday evening, before I went to bed, I did a little tiny outline, and I was thinking, we're at 0, which is a day of protection. It's where we protect the heart, as we did yesterday when we were doing our breath work. Took everybody out, got the gunk out of our heart, and then brought everybody back in. And setting boundaries is what today is all about. So we are completing the work today of our chakra cleansing of our heart and protecting our boundaries and our individual heart chakras. So in order to do this breath work along with artwork, we'll be getting out that brand new piece of paper and continuing along. Now, one of the things I'd like us to do right now is I'd like us to close our eyes and take a deep breath. 2 deep breaths would be really good. I have music in the background. You have lots on your mind. Things are going on. What I would really like is that without judgment, you go back into this quiet space where you have your paper available and your journal, and you are now giving yourself some space to be in the moment with the music, with your mind thoughts, with all of the different processes that we are doing here. And I am going to ask you some questions. And before we get into our real 100% breath work, I'm going to ask these questions for you to listen to and answer if you could. So this is part of our self-love art and heart journal that we are working on today. And so we are listing what our heart sees as first position, which would be the things you love about what your heart is telling you it feels in love with. And also, you're taking the time after we do this breath, 2 breaths, to look at the things that you're not so excited about, how your heart says, not so much. So I'm calling those secondary position steadfast and first position steadfast. And so take a sheet of your paper in your journal and divide it in half. One side will be steadfastly positive, one side will be steadfastly negative, if you don't mind. And I want you to honor yourself. Don't second guess. Just stick with strictly answering the questions and leaving it at that. And so at this point, I am going to have to do a slight sheet and come down here. It'd be really great if what you do is you sort of plant this thought, if you need to plant a thought, if this is not just totally natural to you, about these 4 domains in life to guide some of your thinking when you're allowing yourself to just, these are prompts. Physical health, positive, negative. Mental well-being, positive, negative. Relationships, positive, negative. Vocational, time and money, freedoms, positive and negative. And so keep those in your mind as you're going into the questions I'm getting ready to ask. And consider and remember that this is step 0. This is a continuation of yesterday. And what we are doing in this continuation is we are protecting today. We are doing step 1, which is basically protecting the heart. So I'm preparing right now to have you go into your breath work and take 2 deep breaths. Going into your heart space, I want you to close your eyes and hold space. Hold space for setting up new boundaries. And the first boundary is so that you can feel protected in answering these questions from a space of love and a space of integrity where you can put the answers down and know that these are to ensure that we, you, me, and all of us are individually placing boundaries. Towards the end of this 40 days, I would like us to set up boundaries within the collective and do some collective work, which I believe that we really need to do as we're moving into this collective purification that we're getting ready to do. So I am asking you to close your eyes and sort of work with your pen on your paper while I start to ask you some of these questions. What does your heart steadfastly love about who you are, about yourself? Put that on one side. And on the other side while you're continuing your breath work. And breathing out. What does your heart not steadfastly love about yourself? Just find the one that's the most critical, the one that sticks out, the first one. That's the one we want in your journal. Taking another deep breath, I would like you to follow this question. Where does my heart feel steadfastly in love with myself? And then, where does my heart feel steadfastly loveless with myself? Like I say, let's stick to one thing. Let's not attack ourselves. Now, if you've got lots of things you love about yourself, write a bunch down. But let's accentuate the positive. On step 3, which is, I believe, you're going to go to the question, what is something about my heart that my heart steadfastly believes? And what belief in my life and or of myself do I not steadfastly believe? And as you slowly breathe in and out and take the time to answer these questions, think about the fact that there may be many things that you have yet to uncover in your life. And this is only the first layer. We're step 4 now, I belong step. And the first question is, where does my heart steadfastly feel it truly belongs? And where does my heart feel it steadfastly does not belong? Being gentle and loving. Step 6 is I receive. What am I ready steadfastly to open up to now? And what am I not ready to steadfastly open up to right now? And let's go to step 7, which is I sense. What does my heart steadfastly love about my spirit essence? And what does my heart steadfastly fear about my spirit essence? Let's head into step 8. I decide. What decision that I make for myself do I steadfastly really love? And what decision that I make for myself do I steadfastly not really love? Step 9, I act, I am. What action that I take for myself do I steadfastly love? What action do I take for myself do I steadfastly not love? Step 10, I manifest. What manifestations I have created in my life do I steadfastly love? What manifestations that I have created in my life do I steadfastly not love? And step 11, I become. What aspects of myself does my heart steadfastly love about what I have become? And lastly, what aspect of myself does my heart steadfastly not love about what I've become? And I think that I actually missed one, but I won't know until later when I replay this. And if I have, I'll bring it up tomorrow and have you add it. And now we have the information that we can work with. Once we have looked at our information, we will be able to squarely endorse what we found to be steadfastly positive and what we found to be steadfastly not so positive about who we are. This is good because now we can start to work on setting new boundaries, new patterns, new paradigms. We are going to be sort of pressing a pause button so that we can interrupt any patterns we have that are in our not steadfast side, and examining where they come from, what has brought them to our lives. And as you go back and you go over this information, I would highly suggest that you utilize your scratch paper to do some doodles that reference some of your emotional experiences having to do with your answers. And this might be a good time for you to get out some, something that can allow you to do bold things, maybe bold marks, maybe just your pen, scratch back and forth. If it's something that creates maybe an animosity or anger, please embellish. And that's what we would do as kids. I remember that my son did a drawing. I had no idea why, but it was a dead person in a casket laying on the ground, and he had a rainbow over it. And for many years that it sort of, I thought it macabre. And then it was recently the other day, not very long ago, that I was listening to someone who does professional work with dreams and things that kids draw. And they said, many children have a natural innate quality of traveling dimensionally when they're young. I myself, I flew all the time in my dreams. And I still find myself flying in my dreams. And I loved it. I would elevate out of my body with every breath. So I'd go, and the higher I every time I did that, I went higher and higher until I was above the trees and I could just fly anywhere I wanted. And I loved that, so I kept that practice. And had it not been for the use of my CPAP, where I can't even remember my dreams, I have still got flying dreams, I believe. But this idea was that this drawing represented going somewhere outside the body where there were rainbows, and it was a very happy, momentous thing. Something I wish I had known at that time. I wish I had been aware because I took it negatively, where it was actually his representation of something probably very positive. I didn't talk to him about it, I just, it was a personal thing. But this puts us in a place where you have the time now to take this, and you have the time to go in and allow yourself to go deeper into these questions. And if I did miss one, please put it in the comments and let me know, and I'll add it to tomorrow. Um, and as I say, this is at just over 30 minutes. By the time I'm through, it'll be 31 minutes. These aren't really long. They are not intended to be. This is